Let's talk about Penelope, the wife of Odysseus. She was the daughter of a Spartan king called Icarius and a naiad, a nymph called Periboa. This makes her a cousin of the famous Helen. In fact, Penelope was seen as the paragon of marital fidelity, with Helen on the very other end of the spectrum as the slutty wife who cheats. Anyway, back to Penelope. Because I think she's actually so clever and is so much more than just fidelity. So Penelope, she's married to Odysseus, king of Ithaca. Odysseus goes off to the Trojan War right after his son Telemachus is born. And Odysseus is at the Trojan War for 10 years, and then it takes him another 10 years just to get home. And all of this time, Penelope just waits for him. And it's not like Penelope doesn't have other choices for new husbands. In fact, there are 108 suitors vying for her hand in marriage. They are all like, look, it's been 20 years, Odysseus is not coming back. But Penelope chooses to not marry. Also possibly because these suitors are horrible and they're like being not very good guests. Drinking Odysseus's wine, eating his food, trying to marry his wife. Penelope tries to delay an engagement to somebody else for as long as she can. And she says she will pick a husband out of the suitors. Once she had finished weaving a funeral shroud for Laertes, Odysseus' father. So for 3 years, Penelope sits and weaves this shroud during the day, and every night she comes back and she unravels all of her previous work. Eventually one of the slaves catches on to this and actually tells the suitors. That's not very good girl code. Finally, at the very end of Homer's Odyssey, when Odysseus has actually come back to Ithaca but he's dressed as a beggar so as to not rouse suspicion that he's there, Penelope says finally that she will marry somebody if they are able to win this competition. The competition is to restring the bow of Odysseus and to shoot an arrow through 12 axe heads. Now, she knows no one can do this except for her husband. So whether or not she knows that the beggar in their presence is actually her husband, no one should be able to win this, right? So if she didn't know that Odysseus was actually there, at least she could delay her engagement for a little bit longer. Or if she knew that Odysseus was there, she knew that Odysseus would win, and that's exactly what happens. The strategy from this woman is just amazing. In fact, when Odysseus reveals himself as being Odysseus and not a beggar, she still puts him through a few hoops to prove who he is. She asks her servants to move her marital bed, but Odysseus knows that that's not possible because the bed is made up of part of a living olive tree. You can't move it. At that point, she's like, okay, you must be my husband then. And they live happily ever after, despite the fact that Odysseus had many